I think we're streaming live on Facebook. So welcome back to another segment of A Day of Light and Love 2020. And I am just absolutely honored to be in the presence of Scherr. I'm absolutely humbled by it. I've been able to spend 3 previous days of light and love with you. And you are here as one of our founding alumni and here for the 4th year. And it's a really amazing event that's growing in its scope. And in no year, probably more than this year, has it been called forward to serve in the way that we are. And so, Kia, I'm not sure that everyone will know, who you are and necessarily your story. But before we get into our segment that's going to talk about how to create the future when your past disappears overnight, you are definitely well qualified to talk on that. And maybe you can start out by giving a little bit of background for the people that are watching this.
Right. And that story took place a little over 12 years ago. And my husband and 13-year-old daughter went to Mumbai, India with a group of people for a meditation retreat. And I was in Florida visiting family for Thanksgiving. And 10 terrorists attacked South Mumbai where they were. And 2 of them went into the hotel where they were, into the restaurant where they were eating. And basically with AK-47s, just shot people one by one as they were hiding under the table. And we had to watch the whole thing unfold on the news, not knowing where they were, what happened, if they were safe, praying, hoping, all of that. But on Friday, 2 days later, it was confirmed that they were, in fact, both shot and killed. And I was there with my family. I have 2 sons. They were with me. I have my brother and sister were there, my parents. But Alan and Naomi, it was clear that that was it. That was it. So that's where my life ended in a moment, at the snap of a bullet, basically, just like that. And it's such an abrupt, unexpected, shocking kind of an ending that it's not, really a question of thinking about anything. It's just, you can't be anywhere but in the now at that moment. You're not even thinking about the past. You're just in the now moment. But that's where it all started. And in that space that opened up, this is where the crack, this is the crack that is in that beautiful song by Leonard Cohen. The crack opens up, and that's where the light gets in. It's about light. And I think what we grow up with and we could say our software, my data banks contained the roots of my spirituality. The roots of it began in the Catholic tradition. And there's certain I feel they're universal truths that are expressed in every religion. But in this particular one thing I grew up with was, and we heard the words all the time, forgive them, they know not what they do. And that's what was filtering through my mind. So that's what emerged. That was a truth that emerged. But was I analyzing it or thinking about what it means? Or it wasn't about me, and it wasn't about me forgiving anyone or anything. It was just, forgive them, they know not what they do. And letting that rest and drop into my heart space, and then that was the seed that carried me forward to explore, we could say, the actual meaning and experience and practice of what that meant. And from that moment, that became my spiritual practice, Whereas before that, I'd had decades of closed eye meditation. And I still love to sit, and I love sitting in silence. I love meditation. But I would say that then became the forefront of my life at that point.
So when you're referring to that became the practice, you're talking about forgiveness as a practice?
Forgiveness as a practice, what it means, and yeah, just as a practice. But it wasn't something I was really thinking about at the time. It's over the years that became and exploring, because it is a choice to it's a choice for love. It's a bridge that brings it. I felt a ray of peace come into my heart when I said, okay. I said yes to that statement that came forward. Yes, there's already too much hate. Do I want to join the hate? Do I want to join in the hate? Certainly, I'm not going to hate so much that I would kill someone, but still to live with anger and hatred and feelings of being a victim, that I'm held hostage. Yes. I'm the one that's taking that poison. So is that how I want to live? And I wasn't even analyzing that. All I know is it was like, yes, too much hate. Love is lacking here. So let's send love. Let's send love.
Wow. That's a very powerful response.
And that's the way I felt. Now, does it mean that the terrorists shouldn't be arrested, tried, convicted? No, not at all. That's this whole other matter. Actions have consequences. People need to be held accountable for their actions. We need to prevent such acts of violence as much as possible, all of that. So forgiveness doesn't mean anything about that.
What would you say forgiveness means then?
I would say it's a choice. And what is a choice? It's a choice to move back and return to it returns to love in our own hearts so that we can continue to love, basically, and not have to live with the heaviness or burden of that. But it's a process. It's a process. It's a process of healing, but it's the first step toward healing, rather than say, well, now I'm going to just hold on to this. This is who I am now, and I'm just going to remain attached to this for the rest of my life. That's not a choice I would
So you're saying that you don't have to stay locked in the event or the incident or what was done to you. You can make the choice to embrace it and release the negativity.
That's right. And in terms of creating future, so by holding on, we hold on to the past. And then we're living in the past, and over and over and over again, we keep going through all of that. So then we're choosing to stay in the past, yes, which we can't change at this point. No. So we start in the now moment, and it's in the now moment that our future is created in each moment, actually, by the choices we make and the attitudes and thoughts and how we view things. There's a lot of different lenses to look through.
Yes.
So if I want to choose through that lens, I'm choosing the lens of love and exploring what that means exactly. And that it begins with me. It begins, then it's, okay, let's look at self-forgiveness, self-love, because I can't create any kind of meaningful future for my life without that. That would be a foundation for that. I have to lay that foundation before I could build anything with my life going forward as a single person, my sons were grown by that time. So I didn't have that role. My daughter was 13. So I was still actively involved in the mothering role, where that was gone, and the wife role, that, all of that's gone. So to create a future, I had to find out, who am I? And each of us, who am I now? And who the future that I envision, or what feels exciting to me, who would I need to become to create that? I think that's important to look at. And what does that mean? And what does it look like? What would I need to change to become that person, to live in that future? What actions do I need to take? And in order to do that, what do I need to change? What habits do I need to drop? Because there are really so many layers to this, as you can see.
Oh, yes. And you were saying it's a process. It is it isn't just, okay, We flip the switch. That's it. It isn't like that, is it? It's a progressive realization.
Yeah, that's right. It's been 12 years. So I've had 12 years to come to certain understandings that I can articulate and share. But
Yes.
maybe 5 years ago, even, I'm not sure I could. I certainly wasn't where I feel I am now in terms of my
Right.
perspective and view and understanding and realizations about it all.
But you
So
were on the path.
I was on the path for
You were
sure.
on the path. And getting on the
Absolutely.
path, I think, is the, sometimes I know people this year have they've lost finances. Like
Right.
they've gone backwards. They've lost jobs. They've lost people close to them, perhaps a spouse, a parent, a friend. There've just been other non-pandemic related events, natural events. My own mother passed, and she passed at the ripe age of 94. And she lived an amazing life, but still there's, people are going through things, and there's layers of things that are happening all the time. And then these big significant events come in. What's amazing to me is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That is what came to you in that moment.
Yes.
That was like a divine, it was like divine light came on the path.
Oh yeah.
And so you knew that was the path. And now it's just a progressive realization of moving down that path and moving through the grief. And there's still all of the emotions.
Of course. And it's really important to experience those. And I think it came out gradually. And then when I was ready, more could then be experienced and processed. The grief aspect, it was because it was a daughter and a husband. And so there's been all of that. So there are many layers to it.
Yeah. And there's the family in there too, because it was the death of a spouse, the death of a child, but it's also the death of the family as it was known to be.
And it changed the dynamics of the whole family, for all of us. And my sons had to live with this and had to process it in their own ways. And my brother and sister, and it impacted their lives deeply on many levels. And it was only years later, as we gradually talked about it here and there, that I got to see how it affected other people in the family as well, and the choices that they had to make.
Yeah, in their own individual way, because we're not all at the same point of becoming.
Right. And I think because I felt it was such a gift when I heard that statement, and it was an invitation, a divine invitation. Here's a choice you can make, and to fall into that. And that was pure light, pure positive energy. You can go this way. And then that was sort of leading me forward into the next levels of it. And I just went along with it. And it wasn't perfect. I feel I fell down a lot of times, and various things happen. We're humans, and I just got to experience.
Becoming is never perfect, and yet it's completely perfect.
Yeah, and being human in different ways. We had lived in a meditation sanctuary for many years, which is a sequestered environment, and there's a certain spiritual bubble there, because it's set up for that practice. So that's what we wanted. But then after that, it's like, okay, now it's time for you to use all this, take it out there.
Wow.
And let that, be your strength. That gives you that spiritual strength. But we're spiritual beings, but we're also human beings with mind, body, emotions that are also there, and they interact with each other. So there it is. And just getting experienced and including it all, learning to experience and include it all.
Yes, because forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It just means
not at all.
No, not at all, right?
But I think you could create a much brighter future if there's anything left, like say we're coming to the end of this year, for instance, and we're going into a next year. So we tend to think in terms of end of December, beginning of January as ending and a new beginning. So 2021 is this future that we're looking at. It's very close. So what an amazing opportunity. But to move into that future, what is it that we would love to create, given where we are now, where we would want to be? But in order to do that, you can't take all the baggage with you and create that new future. And forgiveness is a way to let go of some of that. And especially self-forgiveness, because I've had to journey that deeply. I think anytime a person close to us passes on and is no longer in our lives, we reflect on those relationships, and relationships are never perfect. They just aren't. No. And we say or do or don't do things or forget things and wish we had done this, that, should have, could have, would have, all that comes up. There we are. And that's almost all of us. So you look at them and we have regrets.
And that's sometimes the toughest work.
Yeah, it is
forgiving ourselves. We're the hardest on ourselves, most definitely.
And that's where we can let that go so that we can moving forward into the future that we're creating now, by making, what choices are we making now to create a bigger, brighter future? We all want bigger, brighter, happier, more joy, laughter, love, comforts, all the things that we require to live as humans. To have all of that, then we need to drop some of the old stuff that gets in the way of our creativity, our ability to respond with love, patience, listening, understanding, all of that.
So your recommendation then, to bring this back to people who are wanting to move forward, and they're probably resonating with some things that you've said, and it's held or shed the light for them on maybe what the work that they need to do. What would you recommend, maybe just a handful of steps for someone to move forward and to release?
Yeah, I think it starts, first of all, with some reflection. So take some time to reflect and see what comes up. Maybe some things are very obvious and others are less obvious. So giving yourself some time, quiet time with yourself to reflect on that. And then to simply look with detachment and honesty, just to look without judgment, just plain honesty, to look and acknowledge whatever it is, to acknowledge whether it's a regret or whether it's just simply some sadness or grief or hurt for whatever reason, whatever it is. It could be any number of things, but just to acknowledge it. I think that's really important. That's what I've been doing, is just acknowledge, I reflect on it and I acknowledge it. And then that's when it dissolves. It just doesn't have a hold on me anymore once I've done that. So there's a certain amount of acceptance there, but not a passive acceptance. It's just taking it as a learning experience or opportunity. And that's where self-examination comes through. And what can I learn from this? Now I know what not to do, or now I know what I would do, or, and also to acknowledge what ourselves for what we have handled well.
Yes, absolutely. And then, if there's someone who's just been dragging something from the past for a long time and they realize they don't want the burden of that anymore, those steps are wonderful there as well, to be able to, I like what you said. Acceptance has come up a couple of times, a couple of these conversations today, acceptance, because that is such an important step, is to accept the isness of just accept what is.
That's right.
And then look at where do I want to go from here? Because acceptance gives you that, like a starting point almost.
That's right. And then you can make choices from there. When you acknowledge and accept and you could decide where do you want to invest your attention, your time, your talents, your creativity, your resources, your money, whatever choices you need to make. What will you invest in, and what outcomes do you want to get from that? But to know what outcome you would like to receive, what would that require of you? And to bring some thought to that. And that's what our investment is. And investing in self before we invest in others.
Yes.
In self-awareness, first of all, but then also what nurtures us, to be aware of what does nurture us and what our own needs are. And then also to connect to our world. That we're able to connect with our world when we build that inner strength and resilience.
Now, you talked about the meditation community that you were living in at that time, and I believe you still teach meditation.
Yes, that's part of what we do here, and I am here right now at Synchronicity Foundation. It's the Sanctuary Holistic Retreat Center. And as things begin to open up, we'll be inviting other teachers here to teach holistic lifestyle and practices to come. It's a beautiful venue for that. So we're looking forward to that. And then we use technology to balance brainwaves in a way that makes it easy to meditate. So it doesn't require any beliefs, any long time training. It basically, the technology will meditate you by entraining your brain waves and helping the mind to settle down just by listening to that. Mind settles down, gets quieter, body settles down, relaxes. So it doesn't require a long process of learning anything, but then being able to understand that process as well. So the idea is to make meditation easy for those of us who don't have a lot of time, and who even for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes could get a break.
Yes.
Just a relaxation break.
Yes.
Because meditation is not about thinking. It's not about contemplating. Those are great things to do. Contemplation, reflection, very valuable. But this is a meditation that transcends the active mind so that we can have a quiet mind.
Yes.
Open up to a quiet mind. And that's where all creative inspiration comes from.
The quiet mind is like the whiteboard, isn't it? It's the blank. Right. It's the blank canvas that true creation happens. True creation in the now.
Right, and we're just not habituated to having a quiet mind.
It's true.
So it's just turning the attention inward and allowing it, not getting in the way of it. So it is easy when you're listening to the soundtrack that helps you to do that, but not with words. It's more of an invisible technology that just helps to balance the brain, makes it easier to settle down.
Beautiful.
So meditation is an important tool for maintaining balance, but there are many ways to meditate, and some people don't prefer to sit and close their eyes for long periods of time. I think it's valuable, even if it's for a short period, extremely valuable to do it. I also find value in sitting for an hour and meditating.
Oh, yes.
But I recognize it's not for everybody. And some people meditate through writing, through, there's meditation in action. The idea is to just be without any other agenda, or task that you have to do, or any kind of thinking that you have to do, but to just be in the moment. So that is a beautiful thing to do.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for just being a part of today. And that was fabulous, what you shared. Anything that you'd like to say before we end our segment?
I think that for me, I'll just share personally that to create a future that I want to create, I want it to include joy and celebration and fun, and to make a conscious intention for that, so that whatever else I do and bring forth into the world includes all of that, so that that's included in my work. And even if I still have times when I feel sad and I miss my family, that I can still smile through the tears.
Mm.
And I believe that is possible. And so I'm really looking forward and just
Mm.
doing each day. And each day sometimes does include tears, but and maybe for some of us it may include some frustrations. But we can also take the little moments, even when we have certain restrictions right now, we can look around and say, what would bring me joy today with what's going on with what I have now? Even as you know, if you just look out the window at nature, you may hear or see a bird.
Oh, yes.
To me, birds represent joy. So if I just want a quick fix for joy, I like to look at the birds. And I happen to be in the forest area, so there's a lot of birds. But wherever we are, there's always going to be a lot of birds outside. Even in the city, even in the suburbs, there are birds. So birds are they remind us about joy and being liked.
Mm. That's fabulous. I'll be looking at birds differently. It's interesting that you say that, because I mentioned that my mother passed and my mom was a big bird watcher, bird
Oh,
lover.
nice.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. She just found joy within from watching her birds. She had multiple bird feeders. And so that's a very interesting synchronicity there that you
Oh,
mentioned that.
beautiful.
Yes,
Nice.
thank you for that. So I'm aware of the joy because I've watched her for so long, find the joy. And you're right, there's joy, I know this, I can just grab one of my dog's toys and just decide to create a game. And, dogs are amazing for being in the moment.
Absolutely.
They are just in the moment. They're a great example of now,
Yep.
and they love to go to joy. They love to go to joy, to games, to play, to fun, and
Yeah.
there are some very simple ways that we can just sometimes our world has so much complexity that the joy is actually in the simple.
It is. And I believe we could call it forth from inside of us. I just discovered that almost anything we want to experience, we could tune in and call it forth. And in some form, it's going to appear in some
Yes.
way.
Well, I liked how you mentioned these essences that you seek to be expressed. Like you're very mindfully seeking the expression of joy, the expression of celebration. There was another couple that you mentioned, and I think for each of us, naming those things, naming the essence of things, the essence of energy that we want to experience, in the naming of it, it brings it to our consciousness, and then we notice or we create because we're in that connection with those things.
It's true. And just even at the beginning of the day, just upon waking, to take some time. And that's a great time for reflection and to think about what to bring forth, what to experience that day, what do you want that to include. And every time I think to put down fun, enjoyment, this, that, and then I just let it go. I don't think about it. There's nothing to manipulate or plan.
Yeah.
But I find that at some point I'm going to end up laughing because somebody said something or told me a story.
Shows up.
It'll just show up in so it's like, oh, then you can bring in curiosity. How's it going to show up today? How is that going to show up? How will love show up? There's so many forms of love. It's infinite. How's love going to show up today? Joy is a form of love. That's how
and that day becomes an adventure.
That's right. Then it's
discovery.
And it makes it a lot more exciting, a lot more interesting. And even if there's a challenge, we could ask those questions. Oh, how can I work with this? How can we navigate through this to keep it smooth? We know there are solutions. Let's find it together. if you're with someone else. Let's find a way that it actually works out for everybody. There doesn't need to be contention and conflict. That does not need to be there, but we need to open the space for finding the solution. Oh, there's a way to work this out. Let's find it. Let's take a break and come back and we'll find it.
Beautiful. We're going to end with that. That was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you so very much, Kia. And Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, and to you too. And thank you for creating this beautiful venue and context for so much beautiful sharing from people to add that sparkle to a very special day.
Yeah, it is a wonderful way to serve. And it's now an event that I look forward to every year. So that's fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of it and helping us create the future in the now. I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.